All right. Hi, everybody. So here is my week 2 vlog post about chapter 1 here. So regarding the first question or the focus question for this week of what are some common struggles for principals and teachers regarding grading, I have three main things. The first one is just an overall lack of communication. That was talked about in chapter 1 of our book quite a bit, how there's a lack of communication on how grading should go between principals and the teachers as a whole. Between different departments, they have different grading philosophies, and even within the same departments, there's a lot of teachers that just think differently and grade differently, and I've experienced that a lot at the schools that I've been to. The second thing is that I think there's a lot of rigidity amongst teachers to where a lot of them aren't really open to new ideas. So even if somebody comes in and say, "Hey, I think this would work really well for grading in our class," a lot of people aren't really willing to change what they're doing or change the way that they teach, which is it can become a problem. And then lastly is just again kind of discussed in the book a lack of knowledge on how to grade or what grading is for. It's not really talked about very often, so I think a lot of teachers have their own idea of we should what we should grade, why we grade, what it's for, who it benefits, and then with all of these different ideas floating around, it's really difficult to have like a nice fluid system for how we should be grading our students. Um, for some of the other questions that were mentioned in our prompt for this week, um, regarding the teenagers, at least the ones that I see on a daily basis, they're definitely a lot more focused on the grade that they're getting rather than learning. Especially my honor students, they're always asking me like, "How can I get a better grade? What can I be doing?" It's never like, "Oh, I don't understand this. I want to know this more." It's always like, What do I need to know for the test?" Right? I even caught two people cheating on the test today just to do whatever they can to like get the best grade possible, even if it destroys their integrity, right? So really, in my class, the best motivation, I guess, would be just like adding extra credit points or taking away points if they don't do well or something like that, which is really not the way it should go, right? We should be motivating them to learn rather than to just get the points. Okay. And kind of along those same lines, my vision for grading and what I think that it should be is kind of for one a scale to measure how much students know, but also a scale to measure how much they've improved in their knowledge and how much more knowledge they had at the end of the course than they did at the beginning. Um, I wish that formative grading could be a lot more feedback driven and could be pushing students in the right direction, especially for students who are in a vulnerable population and who struggle a little bit more. Um, in the current system, in the way that things are run now, they're really struggling to gather the content in the beginning, and that hurts their grade in the long run, right? When the entire process of learning should involve making mistakes and learning from them and improving upon them, and that's not always reflected in the way that we're grading today. Um, let's see. Some of the current practices that I see in my class and in classes of my colleagues is that they follow a little bit in regards to like homework not being as worth as many points as a test. So in that way, they still get the opportunity to learn without it hurting their grade too much, and then they're really tested on at the end with that big last chapter test. And also, but on the other hand, it still doesn't really assess their learning more than it just assesses what they know at a particular moment, which is not necessarily the best strategy, I don't think. I don't think for the first introduction assignment, they should be losing points for not knowing something when it hasn't really been taught to them yet. Um, let's see. So, regarding myself, some practices that I think best support student learning. First of all, this is an area I can grow a lot. But one thing that I think I do is do well at least is allowing students to do test corrections to improve their score. So even after that summative assessment, they're able to go back, figure out what they learned, and then they have to fill out this whole thing of what the answer was, how they figure that out, what they're going to do better on in the next section as far as um, like learning or studying habits to make sure that they're improving and not just getting slammed for that bad grade. Um, let's see. One thing that I'm open to reconsidering, definitely, I'm already kind of in the works in doing this, is getting rid of a multiple choice test for my summative assessment because I don't really think that's necessarily the best course of action to take in every situation. There is a time and a place for it, but especially in a science class, which is where I'm working, I think more authentic assessment would more accurately measure how students are learning in my class. Um, let's see. Final thoughts, just kind of through reading that chapter, through pondering these questions here. I think in order to improve grading, the biggest thing is that students, teachers, and principals all have to come to a consensus and all really buy into and agree on what the purpose of grading is. And overall, I think there needs to be a mindset shift to where we're no longer grading to rank students and see who's the best, who's the worst, but we're grading students to see their improvement of knowledge. And I think if we can do something along those lines, I know that's kind of vague, but it would encourage students to focus more on the learning and the knowledge rather than just focusing on the grade. Um, so yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Thanks.